Microsoft Excel 2003, Goal Seek, and Advanced Data Analysis. Yes, I know, we took a look at the big mighty solver, but we still have some more tools that we need to focus on. There's a lot to cover in this video, so we're going to get started with Goal Seek, utilizing that as well as data tables, how we can take a whole series of variables and plug them into formulas and give us a different output somewhere else. Scenarios, all that what-if analysis that we did with Solver and we're going to use with Goal Seek and even with some of the other data analysis. What if we forget all the results? Well, scenarios are going to help us out with that. And then we're going to take a real quick sneak preview of what the Advanced Data Toolpack is going to do for us. All right, time for us to take a look at some of the other data analysis tools that we have at our fingertips when we're using Microsoft Excel 2003. Now, I know we took a look at the great big all-powerful solver and saw how we could use that. But there are other things that we can use that are just as effective, just as powerful. For example, one of them is Goal Seek. Now, Goal Seek is a way for us to take a formula-dependent cell and manually change the input and not have to erase the formula. What do I mean by that? Well, for example, let's say I've got the revenue goal is $3,000. Here's my hourly consulting rate. And I came up with a formula to figure out, well, how many hours would I need to work to get $3,000 when I'm earning $75 an hour? Well, it'd be 40 because I put this formula in, right? Equals B1, which is the 3,000 divided by B2, 75. That gives me 40 hours. But notice this is a formula. Now, if let's say I don't have 40 hours. Let's say I only had 30 hours. And I want to be able to figure out, I still need to get that revenue goal of $3,000. And the people that are calling me are saying, we really need you to do it. And you're just like, I can't do it. I only have 35 hours. But they still want to use you. Well, what can you do to make sure you hit that revenue goal? Well, I don't know. What is the hourly consulting rate? And, 35 times what equals 3? And I mean, yeah, you could try to figure that out. But instead, why don't I just use Goal Seek, which will run the numbers for me. It's under the Tools, Goal Seek. And when I select this, it's going to say, all right, the set cell is 40 right here, which has the formula. That is what the set cell is going to be. I've already got it select. Now, the value I want to set that to is going to be, let's say we only have 30 hours to do this. Now, what are the numbers I'm going to run to figure out how to make that work? I'm going to change the hourly consulting rate, right? I could change the revenue goal instead, and that would also change, you could change everything. But in this case, I want to keep that the same, $3,000, and I want to change the hourly consulting rate. Makes sense, right? So I come over here, minimize to grab the right cell. I want to change B2. Absolute cell value, got the dollar signs. I know I'll remind you that at least 1,000 times because you will see those dollar signs and go, now what does that remind me of again? Absolute value. So now B3 is going to change to 30, and we need to change B2 and make sure that the formula still works. That's the key part. So I click OK, and it says, all right, goal seeking with cell B3 found a solution. The target value is 30. The current value already set for 30. Now look what the hourly consulting rate is. It's $100. And that makes sense, right? 30 times 100. Now that's okay, so I can do that. Now I want to change that again. Oh, it's now not 30 hours. It's 35 hours. No problem. Tools, Goal Seek, set the value to 35 by changing cell B2. And I run Goal Seek again. And this time it says, found a solution. Target value and current value now match, $85.71. So you can see by using Goal Seek, we have the ability to, again, just change that one cell, keeping the formula safe. We can change the value, and then it will go out and run the numbers on that other cell. So Goal Seek is really just a nice way to handle the one cell in particular. Another great tool that we can use when we're doing data analysis or coming up with different ways to use different values is use a data table. Like, for example, let me go ahead and open up another one of my example files here. House payment 2. And let's say I'm going to buy a house for $155,000 at a term of 60 months, and I want to find out, because I'm using maybe an ARM, an adjustable rate mortgage, and it can go anywhere from 3.5% all the way up to 10%. And I kind of want to figure out, well, what are my payments going to be if these things rise and fall over this particular term. Now, what you can do is you can make obviously separate calculations for all the different interest rates, but Excel is going to go ahead and use the data table and give you those answers just by figuring them out based on one particular formula. That's what the data table does. So what I can do is just take all these numbers that I've listed over here to the side and then fill in that information right here based on the term of 60 months or anything else that I do. Now, the way that we are going to be able to do that is I go, and by the way, you can put these values, this list of values. It's the first thing you need to do. You can also put them in a row if you want, and I'll show you how that works as well here in a little bit. But here we can say, all right, here is my list of the available rates, interest rates that I have. So I'm going to come up over here, up one and over one cell, and here is where I'm going to put the formula that I'm going to have, because obviously here's going to be the formula, and then it's going to drop down here and put all of those rates in here. So the formula right here is going to be the payment function. So I put equals, and I'll go ahead and type in payment, and then the first thing I'm going to put in there is, well, what's the value that I'm going to have? Well, the rate is going to be the input cell, which is going to be the one immediately above. If you're going in a column, it'll be the one immediately above, the row immediately above the first value. So in this case, A4. So I say A4, and then it says the next thing I need to do is obviously divide it by 12, because that's the monthly or yearly interest rate. So we divide that up, divide it by 12. Then we put a comma in. The next thing we're going to need to put in is the value. Well, what is going to be the amount that I'm going to be using? Well, it's $155,000, right? And so what I need to do is put in, or I'm sorry, and that's the term that I'm going to use. So in this case, that's going to be B2 is what I'm going to have right there. And then the next thing I'm going to want to do is, though, then have the present value, which is I owe $155,000. So that's going to be B1. So I go ahead and put that in, and I can close that. The other ones are optional. And once I tab over, notice it's going to say, look, for 60 months at 0, you are going to have $2,583.33. So the formula currently, right now, is only 0 because there's no value in it. See, A4, don't have anything. 0 divided by 0 is all set. Well, what I'm going to want to do is select over here and include all the area that I'm going to have the data in. And then I'm going to come up here to the tools, or actually, excuse me, on data, and then go table. Click on table. Now it says, now the row input cell. Well, the row input cell, if you're going to do it in a column, you are going to put it up here and select this one right here, A4. At this point, it's going to say, okay, well, this is obviously going to be my column input cell that I'm going to be utilizing. And now I'm going to go ahead and click OK and watch as it fills in the amounts. Look at that. If I'm at 3.5%, my payment is $28.1972. If it's at 4%, it's $28.54, all the way down to 10% at $3,293.29. Now, what's really fascinating is, watch this, because that's a formula dependent. If I come in here and I type in, well, let's do it in 72 months. Look at the numbers. They change, don't they? Because the formula changes here, and of course the inputs change on the data table based upon the information that's in that formula. So I can come in here, and obviously paying off a house in 72 months is probably not the easiest way to do it, but let's say I did it for a full 30 years. So I go ahead and do that, and now we get a little bit more of an accurate house payment here. I could have at 6.5% at $155,000. My payment's going to be about $979.71. So what we're showing here is the availability for us to go in and then take this data table and give us the information that we're looking for. Now we can also do both, not only columns, but we can do more than one set of variables. Now, how we can do that? Let me show you. Let's do a variable term. I went ahead and pre-built this a little bit by putting in the terms of 36 months, 42 months, 48, all the way up to 96 months, keeping the interest rates, how we do that. So what we would do is we're going to have two sets of variables that are going to be taken from our data table, and then that will fill in that information on these cells right here. So how do we do that? Well, let's go ahead and go over here and put the formula right here instead, and then we'll use the A3 and the B3 as my input cells for the data table. And we'll show you how that works. My formula, obviously I'm going to be using $155,000 is my price, and then I'm going to use this as part of my term and this as my interest rate, right? Okay, so if I use my payment equals PMT, put in parens, my rate is going to be A3, because it's going to be that's going to be my input cell, divided by 12. And then I go ahead and say, comma, my term, how many thing, is going to be right here, B3. So I type in B3, and then followed by my present value, which is going to be up here, which is C1. So I type in C1 and I go ahead and close the parens. Now what happens obviously is there are no values here, and there's, so there's nothing for it to divide by. So when I tab on over, it says, sorry, you have an error here. You're using division by zero. It's just bad. Okay, that's fine. Don't worry about that. But what we now have to do is we need to put all of this information right here into a table. So we come up here to our data, hit our table, and now this time our row input cell that we're going to use is going to be B3, and our column input cell, just like we did last time, remember that's the one that we're going to use from the column, and it's going to go and find these values and put them through, is going to be set up right there on A3. So I come over here and I say A3. Now watch what happens when I click OK. It's going to go through and it's going to figure out the amounts. Now right now the numbers are too big. You can see how they kind of show up here. But if I just go ahead and expand a little bit my columns, and you can see the numbers have filled in utilizing that particular formula. So if it's 36 months, let me click off at this, 36 months, and I want to go ahead and find out at 3.5%, it's going to be $4,500, or roughly. All the way down here, 60 months at 7%. Look at that, we get $3,069.19. And if I wanted to, in another video we talk about the HLOOKUP and VLOOKUP, I could then go find these numbers if I have huge amounts of data that I need to do, and I could add that as another one. So again, what we're doing here is essentially creating a formula and then using this data table that you see here to, 36, 42, 48, and all these different variables to fill in the information that we're looking for. So now that we've seen how to use data tables, we've seen goal seek, and we've even taken a look at solver in a previous video. And these are all great data analysis and what if type of analysis. What if you have 36 and this, what do you get? And so we can see all these analyses. But the problem is, after a while, when you keep doing them over and over and over again, you start, forgetting what the results were. Well, what if we could keep track of those and then go back and say, hey, what was that? And then look at it again. We can do that with something called scenarios. Scenarios actually run through something called Scenario Manager. Now, let me go ahead and go back and open up our coffee roasting sales, which was one of the ones that we use for our solver program. And again, you can see we have we had all of this laid out, and we want to figure out what our net income will be if we sell a certain amount of bags, and here's our bags and inventory, and that's solver. We did that. So let me go ahead and select this, come up to tools, and open up solver. Now solver is going to say, okay, what if we want to do the value of $15,000. That's what the value will be. Well, we want to change these cells subject to these constraints. This is just a reminder. That was the constraints are we only have 1,000 light bags and 1,000 dark and all those things. So I go ahead and I click solve, and it says, hey, you found a solution. All constraints and optimality conditions are satisfied, and we look and we said, oh, we sell this many bags, this many bags, this many bags, and this many bags, and that equals 15,000. Okay, look at this. Save scenario. Okay, let's go ahead and save the scenario. We'll call this 15K in revenue. Okay, or net income, sorry. Yeah, let's be technically correct here. Net income. So 15K in net income, that's what I'm going to name it. So I click OK. Now it just brings me back here, and it's saved then. Well, I want to restore the original value. So I click back, and it goes back to here. Now I want to run another solver on it. So I click Tools, Run Solver, And this time with my parameters, I'm going to say I want to make 30,000. Okay? And I'm going to do the same constraint. So I hit solve. It has found one. Now I'm going to save the scenario, and this time I'm going to call it 30K in net income. I click OK. Sounds good. Keep the solver solution. And now we'll store the original values, come back here. And I'm just doing this separately each time so you can see this. So now I come up and I again go to my tools, my solver, and this time I want to see what the maximum amount will be instead of setting a value. So I click solve. It says, all right, we found a solution. Here's what the maximum is going to be, 33,000. I save a scenario and I say maximum net income. Now I click OK. Now right now, I want to go ahead and we'll keep the solver solution. So now I have the 33 and I'm like going, oh, you know what? How many bags did I sell when I did of the light when I did 15,000, coming up with the best optimal solution? All I need to do is come up here to tools and scenarios. And now here's my scenario manager. And notice right now I'm currently got maximum net income. Let me click on 30,000 in net income. Or no, what did I say? 15,000. I want to see how many light bags I had. I do show. Look what happened. Instantaneously, it takes me back to the original things that I had for 15,000. What was it for 30? Show. There it is, 802, 882. Nope, I want to go back to maximum net income. Show. There it is. See, I could have quite a few of these scenarios. And look at this. We can create these scenarios. I can then accept them from other people. If someone else gives them to me, I can add them. I can edit them. I can even merge scenarios that are given to me by other people. And maybe I want them to put them together and then give me their scenarios back. See, now I have a much better way of keeping track of all these what-if analysis that I have in common. Now, of course, once I hit close, it comes back and it leaves it set where I had it right there, and I'm good to go. So Scenario Manager is just a way for us to go through. Now, if I wanted to edit or add any scenarios, just come up here and I can say Scenarios, and let's say I want to add one. Okay, let's click Add. Now it says, what is the scenario name? I'm going to say, I want to call this, what do we want to call this? We'll call this 500 bags sold. Okay, changing B10 through E10. So we can do that. All right, that sounds good. And we say, all right, go ahead and go. Now, what are the values for each of the changing cells? Well, that's going to be 500, 500, 500, 500. Okay, I click OK, and it says here's the one for 500 bags sold. And now if I click Show, look at that. It changes the values for me. So Scenario Manager, not only can it just take things that I've saved, I can create and add these scenarios based upon anything. I could change the cost of roasting. I can change anything, and I can create all these scenarios. I know I'm getting a little giddy about this, but I just think it's very cool to be able to do this at the click of a button and show the different scenarios that I have built, so I don't have to go back and redo the solver every single time, or redo the goal seek, or any of the what-if analysis that I have put into place. Now, we also want to show you some of these advanced data tools that we have as well. So let me go ahead and close this out. And let's say I want to go ahead and do some more highly advanced data analysis. Now, these data tools, by the way, that you're getting, they're for scientific and financial things that you can use. And what I'm going to have to do, if you remember, to get Solver to work, I had to go into the add-ins, right? Well, I'm going to have to do that for the Analysis Toolpack as well. Analysis Toolpack, again, is just for scientific and financial data analysis. I click OK, or check it first, and then click OK, and this brings them open. Now, these are important because if you do take any of the Microsoft Office user exams, they do expect you to know where to find these and how to load them. Now, do you need to know each one of them? No, because there are quite a few that you can use. Now, what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to open up another file here, and I'm going to go ahead and say, let's see, which one should we pick here? Maybe we're going to do bulk instrument sales. So I go ahead and click up and I click open. So now I've gone ahead and done bulk instrument sales, and I want to go ahead and just do some data analysis on this for some odd reason. So I go ahead and I come up here and I click now on the tools, and notice my data analysis has now opened up. So I click on data analysis, and now I'm given a whole list of these. ANOVA single factors, covariances, exponential smoothing, the f-test, two sample for variances. Trust me, do I know what all these do? Absolutely not, because I don't do a lot of them. But just for example, one that's fairly decent, you can do rank and percentile. That's a fairly simple one. So I'll go ahead and click OK. Now what it's going to ask is, it's going to say, what's the input range? In this case, and I'm only using this as an example, I would say I'm going to use clarinet, trumpet, violin, guitar, and drum, and I'm going to rank these. So I go ahead and I click this, and I click my sources and my column headers right here, so that way it knows it, and it's going to prioritize. Well, let me go ahead and go all the way to the top 10 here, because that's the values that I have here. So I go ahead and do that, and it says, all right, are the labels in the first row? You click yes, so that way it knows that these are the labels and they're not the values that you want to do, and they're grouped by columns: clarinet, trumpet, violin, guitar, and drum. I click OK. And then it comes up with, on a separate worksheet, because that's what we chose, the clarinet, its rank, and each one of these, point 1, 2, 3, and 4, they were all $100, so they all get the ranking of 1, and then, of course, all the way to the bottom, so it gets a ranking of 6, because there's only 2 values at the end that they have. And so, and it goes through, and again, do you need to know the exact details of what it is or why they have percentages of 55 or not? No. But again, you can use this and then take the data, place it on a different sheet by using these data analysis tools that you have. Any one of these, histograms, moving averages, random number generation. They're all good for you to use when you are doing your data analysis. Wow, a lot of things that we took a look at in this particular video, including goal seek, which is more of just like the single cell, keeping the formula protected but changing the values by looking at other cells. Then we saw that we can use data tables when we have a whole list of variables that we want to plug into particular formulas and then produce output. We can use those. Scenarios. We have a ton of those what if scenarios or what if analysis. Well, each one can be saved as a scenario, and then we can compare them by showing each one for that particular worksheet. We can even merge different scenarios from other people. Pretty cool stuff. Then we had the Advanced Data Toolpack, and we just took a look at one of them, actually one that I kind of understood, rank and percentile. There are many different ones that you can use. And again, if you're really advanced and you use a lot of this in your everyday scientific research or financial programs, this is going to be where you want to find that. Remember, you do have to add that in. You have to add the Advanced Data Toolpack and install it before you can use it. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.